again to everyone who could make it tonight. It's broken course that hopefully will also, apart from gaining something, we've got some money toward the DEC here in Gaza. Thank you for the IALSOC, the Islamic Society, Dr. Walker, the Palestine Society, a lot of societies that have brought together to make this event happen, and that's admirable. So before I introduce the event, I'd just give you an overview of what the Islamic Society has in store for this term. The next event after this one takes a look at the current global economic crisis and asks, how can the Islamic perspective inform us about the mess that we're in, and can it provide a genuine and workable alternative? The event is called Getting Economical with the Truth, and it will be Monday of 6th week, and it will take place at 7 p.m. in the Edmund Safra Lecture Theatre in the Saudi Business School. In week 7, there will be another highly anticipated special event on the spiritual dimension of Islam. We are very lucky to have a renowned international speaker, Sheikh J.H. Brown, speaking what promises to be a very enlightening topic. Islamic spirituality, realms and reality will take place on Tuesday, 7th week. Please check the website for the venue. I can also remind you that the Islamic Society is selling hoodies, £15. Very dashing, if I might say, new hoodies. So grab them at the back if you're interested. They're awesome. Please check the website for all details, especially with the venue. All the information here on the website. You can also sign up for the mailing list to keep abreast of all the latest developments. Now, since December 27th, a new chapter has been added to the tragic narrative of the Middle East conflict. 1,324 deaths later, and almost 2 months, we find ourselves still with no questions and answers. A maelstrom of student activity up and down the country has ensued. The Oxford student community has been at the forefront of this movement. The ISOC's press statement on the nature of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza was signed by over 100 academics, including our esteemed guest here tonight, from institutions all over the world, including Oxford, Cambridge, University of London, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and many others. Also, the student occupation of the Clarendon building that displays student activism which many have thought extinct here. Over 80 students hold the university to account over its ties with injustice and oppression. In addition, we've held countless lectures, seminars, vigils, and workshops, which brings me to tonight's event, which is a continuation of this wave. We are delighted and honoured to have with us tonight Professor Norman Finkelstein to address us on the topic of the Middle East's history of violence. Professor Finkelstein has been an expert on this issue for more than 20 years and has authored 5 books pertaining to the region. He just completed a new book called Farewell to Israel, The Coming Breakup of American Zionism, which will be released later this year. So without further ado, I would like to warmly invite Professor Finkelstein to begin what promises to be a fascinating and insightful presentation. Thank you.
It's not switched on.
Lights. The microphone should be fine now. One button for the left. Perfect. Well, thank you for inviting me. A little bit tired. I'm learning one of life's unheralded pleasures is sleep. My motto has always been what's so great about being awake, but now I'm really developing a attachment to sleep. Maybe preparing for the long one. Or something or someone is preparing me for the long one. I'll be speaking this evening on what happened in Gaza, and I'm willing to stay as long as you folks are willing to stay. I don't know how long the room stays open, but it's an opportunity, and it's actually a double, a triple opportunity. You're bright young people, and that's always a attractive occasion, and it's a serious matter where hopefully I'll have an opportunity to convey some facts, or as I understand them to be the facts. And thirdly, it's a good cause. So when you combine the three, it's all the more reason to want to maximize, exploit the opportunity. First, just to begin, a word about terminology. It doesn't seem to me appropriate to describe what happened in Gaza as a war. I notice people here refer to the war on Gaza, and that seems closer to the truth than to describe it as a war, broadly speaking. But I think the only accurate depiction is to call it what happened in Gaza a massacre or a bloodbath or a slaughter, whichever you want. Israel flew about 3,000 sorties over Gaza. All the planes returned safely. None was harmed, let alone downed. Israel avoided any engagements where they might have suffered major casualties. There were only a few sustained clashes during the massacre. Israel fought at night with special night equipment, which Hamas was not able to fend against. And overall, when you add up those features, it's not surprising that the kill ratio was 100 to 1, about 3 to 400, 1/4 to 1/3 of those killed on the Palestinian side were children. I think that's accurately described as a massacre, and henceforth not for its emotive value, but simply because the word has a dictionary definition and seems to work for this occasion. I'll henceforth refer to it as the Gaza massacre. Israel officially justified the Gaza massacre, or what it called Operation Cast Lead, began on December 27th and ended on January 17th or 18th, depending on how you read the calendar. They justified it as a self-defense against Hamas rocket attacks. That justification plainly, manifestly lacks any credibility. If Israel wanted to avert the rocket attacks, it would not have broken the ceasefire with Hamas that triggered the attacks. And it also had the option as late as December 21st to renew the ceasefire with Hamas, but chose not to. In addition, and more broadly, Israel could have reached a diplomatic settlement with the Palestinians, including Hamas, that resolved the conflict and terminated armed hostilities. I'll return to all of these points presently, but for a moment it's useful to put Israel's claim of self-defense in the broader context of its human rights record in the occupied Palestinian territories. As it happens, a couple of weeks ago, the main Israeli human rights organization monitoring human rights in the occupied territories, B'Tselem, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories, it released its annual report. The report, just for clarity's sake, covers the period from January 1st to December 26th. They exclude, for the purposes of this report, everything that happened during the Gaza massacre. And these are its basic findings. During that period, again, January 1st through December 26th, Israeli Defense Forces killed 455 Palestinians, of whom at least 175 did not take part in hostilities, were civilians. On the Israeli side, 21 civilians and 10 combatants were killed. Thus, for the year 2008, up to the eve of the Gaza massacre, the ratio of total Palestinians to Israelis killed was 15 to 1. And if we limit ourselves just to civilians,